My name is Vanessa, and I am 34 years old. I spent 12 years of my life working for the house I live in now. Every dollar came from my own sweat and sacrifice. When my brother and his wife needed a place to stay because they were drowning in debt, I opened my door without hesitation. 3 months later, his wife stood in my living room and demanded I pay her $2,000 a month in rent. Her reason, because I was living in my brother's house. What happened next changed everything. Before I tell you how I handled this unbelievable situation, let me know where you are watching from today. Hit that like button and subscribe because what happened next taught me a lesson about family that I will never forget. Let me take you back to the beginning so you can understand how I got here. I was born and raised in a small town in Ohio, the kind of place where everyone knows everyone and nothing much ever changes. My father worked as a plumber, spending his days fixing leaky pipes and clogged drains in other people's homes. My mother worked as a cashier at the local grocery store, standing on her feet for 8 hours a day, scanning items and making small talk with customers. We were not poor, but we were not comfortable either. Every penny was counted, every expense was weighed carefully. I have one sibling, a younger brother named Derek. He is 4 years younger than me, which made him 30 years old when all of this happened. Growing up, I was always the responsible one. When our parents worked late, I was the one who made sure Derek did his homework. I walked him to school when he was little. I packed his lunches. I helped him study for tests. I protected him from bullies on the playground. That was just what big sisters did, or at least that was what I believed. Our parents passed away in a car accident when I was 22 years old. Derek had just turned 18. One moment they were driving home from a weekend trip, and the next moment they were gone. The police said another driver ran a red light. Just like that, our whole world shattered. I remember standing at their funeral, holding Derek's hand, feeling like I had aged 20 years overnight. I was no longer just his sister. I was now his guardian, his family, his everything. After the funeral, I made a decision. I would make sure Derek finished high school. I would make sure he had every opportunity our parents would have wanted for him. To do that, I needed money. I got a job as an administrative assistant at a small company downtown, working from 8 in the morning until 5 in the evening. Then I would go straight to my second job as a waitress at a diner, working from 6 until midnight. I did this 6 days a week for years. I had no social life. I had no vacations. I had no luxuries. Every dollar I made went toward bills, toward Derek's needs, toward savings. By the time I was 27, I'd saved enough for a down payment on a small townhouse in the suburbs of Columbus. The day I signed those mortgage papers was one of the proudest moments of my life. The house was nothing fancy, 3 bedrooms, 2 bathrooms, a small backyard, but it was mine. I had earned it. Over the next 7 years, I continued working hard. I got promoted from administrative assistant to office manager, and my salary increased. I put every extra cent toward my mortgage, determined to pay it off as fast as possible. The day I made my final mortgage payment, I sat in my kitchen and cried. I was 34 years old and I owned my home outright. No more monthly payments, no more debt, just mine. I decorated every room myself, choosing colors and furniture that made me happy. I planted a garden in the backyard, growing tomatoes and peppers and herbs and flowers. Every corner of that house held a memory. Every wall represented years of sacrifice. That house was not just a building. It was the physical proof that I had built something with my own 2 hands. Throughout all of this, I never stopped helping Derek. After high school, he did not go to college. He said it was not for him, and I respected that decision. He bounced from job to job, never quite finding his direction. He worked in retail, in restaurants, in warehouses. Nothing ever stuck. Every few months, he would call me with some new crisis. His rent was due and he was short. His car broke down and he needed repairs. His hours got cut and he could not make ends meet. Every time I helped, I gave him money and never asked for it back. I told myself he was still finding his way, still figuring things out. He was my baby brother. Taking care of him was what I did. 3 years before the events of this story, Derek met a woman named Monica at a bar. He called me the next day, absolutely smitten. She was beautiful, he said. She was confident and funny and amazing. Monica was 32 years old and worked as a nail technician at a salon across town. From the first time I met her, something felt off to me, though I could not quite put my finger on it. She had a strong personality, the kind that filled up every room she entered. She spoke loudly and laughed loudly and had opinions about everything. Derek proposed to Monica after only 9 months of dating. I thought it was too fast, but I kept my concerns to myself. Who was I to judge someone else's love story? I attended their wedding and gave them a generous gift. I tried my best to build a relationship with my new sister-in-law. We had dinners together. We celebrated holidays together. I made every effort to welcome her into our small family. But there were signs even then. Monica would make comments about my house that felt strange. "This place is so nice," she would say, looking around with an expression I could not quite read. "Derek and I could never afford something like this." She asked questions about how much the house was worth, how much my mortgage payments had been, how I had managed to buy it. I thought she was just curious. I did not think much of it. Monica also had a habit of borrowing things and never returning them. A dress she wanted to wear to a party. A pair of earrings she admired. A book she said she wanted to read. Small things that should not have mattered but somehow did. I let it go because I wanted to keep the peace. I told myself I was being petty for even noticing. Then one evening my phone rang. It was Derek, and his voice sounded strange. Stressed and tight and unlike himself. He asked if he could come over to talk. I said of course, wondering what could be wrong. When he arrived at my door an hour later, I barely recognized him. He looked terrible. His eyes had dark circles under them. He had lost weight. His whole body seemed to vibrate with anxiety. He sat down on my couch and could not speak for a long moment. Then he started to cry. I had not seen my brother cry since our parents' funeral. Derek sat on my couch with his face in his hands, his shoulders shaking with sobs. I sat beside him and put my arm around him, waiting for him to tell me what was wrong. When he finally looked up, his eyes were red and swollen. He told me everything. 3 months earlier, Derek had lost his job. His company had done layoffs and he was one of the people cut. He had been too ashamed to tell anyone. He had spent months applying for new positions, going to interviews, hoping something would come through. Nothing did. The job market was difficult and his resume was not impressive. Meanwhile, bills kept piling up. He had used all of his savings. He had maxed out 3 credit cards. The debt had climbed to $20,000. Monica's income from the nail salon was not enough to cover their expenses, not even close. They had fallen behind on rent. Their landlord had sent warning after warning. Now they had received the final notice. They had 2 weeks to move out or face formal eviction proceedings. They had nowhere to go. No savings, no options, no plan. Derek could not look at me as he said the words. He had been trying to handle it himself, he explained. He did not want to come to me again, not after all the times I had already helped him. He was embarrassed. He was ashamed. He had wanted so badly to prove he could stand on his own 2 feet. Instead, everything had fallen apart. I asked him why he had not told Monica how bad things were. He said he had tried to protect her from the worst of it. She had only found out the full truth a week earlier when the eviction notice arrived. Now they were both panicking, not knowing what to do or where to turn. I did not need to think about my answer. This was my brother, my only family. The little boy I'd walked to school, the teenager I'd helped through high school, the young man I'd supported through every struggle. I could not turn my back on him now. "You can stay with me," I told him. "Both of you, you can live here until you get back on your feet, however long that takes." Derek stared at me like he could not believe what he was hearing. Then he hugged me so tightly I could barely breathe. He thanked me over and over, promising he would find a job as soon as possible, promising they would not be a burden, promising everything would be different this time. I laid out my expectations clearly. They would not need to pay rent. They would not need to pay for groceries. I just wanted Derek to focus on finding employment. The only thing I asked was that they help with household chores and keep the house clean. Derek agreed immediately. He called Monica right there from my living room to tell her the news. Monica arrived about an hour later. Her reaction was not quite what I expected. She thanked me, but the gratitude seemed shallow, like something she was saying because she knew she was supposed to say it. Her first real comment was, "Well, at least we will have a nice place to stay. Your house is much nicer than our apartment anyway." I tried to take it as her looking on the bright side. Then she asked which room would be theirs. When I told her the guest room, she looked surprised. "Not the master bedroom?" she asked. I explained that the master bedroom was mine. This was my house. She recovered quickly, smiling and saying, "Of course, that made sense," but there was something in the way she said "your house" that stuck with me. I could not explain why, but it felt wrong. I spent the rest of that week preparing for their arrival. I cleaned out the guest room and bought new towels and linens. I cleared space in the closet and the bathroom cabinet. I stocked the refrigerator with extra groceries and planned a welcome dinner. I wanted them to feel comfortable. I wanted this to work. Derek and Monica moved in that Saturday. The first couple of days went smoothly. Derek helped around the house without being asked. Monica was pleasant and polite. We ate dinner together and watched television in the evenings. I started to think that maybe this would be okay. Maybe having them there would even be nice. I'd been living alone for years. It might be good to have family around. By the end of the first week, I felt genuinely hopeful. Derek was already sending out job applications. Monica was going to work at the salon every day. The house felt fuller, more alive. I told myself I had made the right decision. I had no idea how wrong I was. The second week was when things started to shift so gradually at first that I almost did not notice. I came home from work one evening to find that the living room furniture had been completely rearranged. The couch, which I had positioned to face the window where I love to watch the sunset, was now against the opposite wall. The coffee table was in a different spot. Even the armchair had been moved. I stood in the doorway, confused and oddly unsettled. Monica appeared from the kitchen with a smile. "I thought it would look better this way," she explained. "More open, the flow is much nicer now." I did not like the new arrangement. The sunset I loved was now behind the couch, but I did not want to start an argument over furniture. I told her it was fine, that we could leave it like this. I was trying to be accommodating. I was trying to be a good host. The next day I discovered that my kitchen cabinets had been reorganized. My spices, which I had arranged alphabetically over the course of years, were now scattered randomly across 3 different shelves. My baking supplies had been moved to a bottom cabinet where I would have to bend down to reach them. My favorite coffee mugs were shoved to the back, replaced at the front by Monica's collection of oversized cups. "I could not find anything in there," Monica said when I asked about it. "So I fixed it." I bit my tongue. I reminded myself that she was trying to be helpful in her own way. I reminded myself that this was temporary, but then I started noticing the grocery bills. Before Derek and Monica moved in, I spent about $300 a month on food. That first month with them, the bill was nearly $800. When I checked what was being bought, I saw items I would never purchase for myself. Organic everything, even when the regular version was half the price. Premium imported cheeses. Expensive cuts of meat, brand name products when generic would do. I tried to mention it gently one evening. "I noticed the grocery costs have gone up quite a bit," I said carefully. "Maybe we could be a little more mindful about what we're buying." Monica's response stopped me cold. "You said we did not have to pay for food," she said. "I assumed that meant we could eat what we want." I did not know how to respond to that logic. Yes, I had offered to cover their food costs, but I had assumed that meant reasonable groceries, not a complete lifestyle upgrade at my expense. I let it go, but something inside me started to harden. The electric bill told a similar story. It jumped by nearly 40% that first month. Monica kept the air conditioning running full blast even when no one was home. "I like to come back to a cool house," she explained. "Is that a problem?" Derek seemed embarrassed by these things, but he never said anything to his wife. He would give me apologetic looks when Monica made demands, but he never actually stood up to her. He never suggested that maybe they should be more considerate. He just stayed quiet and let it happen. One evening I came home to find 5 strangers sitting in my living room. They were eating pizza on my couch, watching television at a volume that could be heard from the driveway. Monica introduced them as her friends from the salon. "I thought it would be nice to have the girls over," she said casually. "We never get to hang out anymore." She had not asked me if it was okay to invite people. She had not even mentioned it was happening. I smiled and greeted everyone because I did not know what else to do. The gathering went on until midnight. I had to work the next morning. I could not sleep because of the noise. But I said nothing. I did not want to be the difficult one. Derek was still applying for jobs, which gave me some hope. He would spend hours on the computer searching listings and submitting applications. He got a few interviews, but nothing panned out. I tried to be supportive. I helped him polish his resume. I gave him advice about what to wear and what to say. I believed in him even when he did not believe in himself. But Monica had a different approach. Every time Derek considered a position, she found something wrong with it. "That salary is too low," she would say. "You deserve better than that." Or, "The commute would be terrible. Wait for something closer." Derek listened to her. He turned down opportunities because Monica said they were not good enough. I watched in frustration but did not know how to intervene without overstepping. The bathroom situation became a daily battle. I had always woken up at 6 in the morning, showered and gotten ready for work. It was my routine, the same one I had followed for years. But now Monica would be in the bathroom at 5:30 doing a full makeup routine that took nearly an hour. The first time it happened, I knocked and asked how long she would need. Her response was sharp. "I have a client at 8. I need to look professional." I waited 45 minutes and was almost late for work. When I suggested we coordinate schedules, Monica's answer stunned me. "Well, there is only one bathroom. Maybe you should have thought about that before inviting us." The thermostat became another source of tension. I had always kept my house at 68 degrees. It was comfortable for me and kept the energy bills reasonable, but Monica was constantly turning it up to 74, claiming she got cold. I would come home to find the house sweltering and the electric meter spinning. I tried to compromise at 71. Monica would change it back to 74 the moment I left for work. These were small things individually: a rearranged room, a reorganized cabinet, a higher grocery bill, a fight over temperature settings. But together they painted a picture that I did not want to see. I was losing control of my own home. The space I'd worked 12 years to own was no longer feeling like mine. What hurt most was watching Derek change. He started to distance himself from me, avoiding the long conversations we used to have. When I tried to talk to him alone, he seemed uncomfortable, like he was caught between two people he loved and did not know how to handle it. Whenever there was tension between Monica and me, he stayed silent or sided with his wife. I understood that he was trying to keep his marriage stable, but it felt like I was losing my brother inch by inch. By the end of that first month, I was starting to regret my decision. But I told myself to be patient. They just needed time. Things would get better. They had to get better. The second month was when Monica's behavior stopped being subtle and started being openly aggressive. It started with my garden. I had spent years cultivating that small patch of land in my backyard. I had grown tomatoes from seeds that I saved each season. I had pepper plants that were 3 years old. I had herbs that I used in my cooking every day. I had flowers that bloomed in rotating colors throughout the spring and summer. That garden was my therapy, my peace, my pride. One Saturday afternoon, I came home from running errands to find half of it destroyed. Torn up plants lay wilting in a pile. The soil where my tomatoes had grown was freshly turned, and Monica was on her knees planting something new, rose bushes of all things. "What are you doing?" I demanded, my voice rising before I could stop it. Monica looked up with an expression of complete innocence. "I thought we could grow some roses instead," she said. "Those vegetables were so boring to look at. Roses are much prettier." I stared at the carnage. Years of work ripped out of the ground without a second thought. "You had no right to touch my garden without asking," I said. It was the first time I had truly raised my voice at her. Monica's expression shifted into something hard and defensive. "I was just trying to make it nicer around here. You do not have to be so dramatic about some plants." Derek appeared at the back door, clearly having heard the commotion. He looked at the destroyed garden, then at me, then at Monica. For a moment, I thought he might actually say something, might actually stand up for me. Instead, he just shifted his weight from one foot to the other and said nothing. Monica stood up, brushing dirt from her knees. "This is ridiculous," she announced. "I was doing something nice and you are acting like I committed a crime." She stormed past Derek into the house. He followed her after giving me one last apologetic look that meant nothing anymore. I stood alone in my ruined garden, surrounded by dying plants, and felt something fundamental shift inside me. After that day, Monica's invasion of my space accelerated. Her belongings spread through the house like a slow flood. Her winter coat took up permanent residence in my coat closet. Her beauty products colonized the downstairs bathroom I had always kept for guests. Her exercise equipment appeared in the corner of my living room. Her craft supplies covered my dining table and never got put away. I tried moving things. I put her coat in the guest room closet where it belonged. I consolidated her bathroom products into a small basket. I asked her to keep her equipment in her room. Every single time, the items reappeared in their previous locations within days. It became a silent war I was steadily losing. Monica started making bigger requests, each one pushing the boundary a little further. She suggested I add them to my streaming accounts. "We are all using them anyway," she reasoned. "It just makes sense." I agreed, thinking it was minor. Then she asked about my car. Since Derek did not have one, could he use mine for job interviews? I hesitated, but eventually said yes. It was my car that I had paid off years ago, well-maintained and reliable. But Derek needed transportation, and this was temporary, except it stopped being just for interviews. Derek started using the car for everything: trips to the store, visits to friends, errands that had nothing to do with employment. Monica used it too, borrowing it for hours at a time without asking. Every time I needed my own vehicle, the gas tank was nearly empty. Then one day, I noticed a dent in the rear bumper. When I asked about it, Derek admitted he had backed into a mailbox but had not wanted to worry me. Monica's manipulation tactics grew more sophisticated as the weeks passed. She started playing the victim. I would overhear her talking to Derek in their room, her voice tearful. "Your sister hates me," she would say. "She makes me feel so unwelcome here. I do not know what I ever did to her." Derek would emerge from these conversations looking at me differently, coldly, suspiciously. I tried to have a calm conversation with him about what was really happening, but somehow my words always got twisted. Monica would tell him I had said things I never said. She claimed I'd called her not good enough for my brother, which was completely false. But Derek believed his wife over his sister. One afternoon, I came home early from work with a headache. I walked into my home office to get some aspirin from my desk drawer and found Monica sitting at my desk. She had papers spread out in front of her. My papers. Bank statements. Bills. The deed to my house. My mortgage payoff documents. "What are you doing?" I asked, my voice cold. Monica did not even have the decency to look embarrassed. She glanced up at me with a casual expression. "I was just curious about how much you pay for this place," she said. "That is private," I told her firmly. "You have no right to go through my personal documents." Something flickered in Monica's eyes, something calculating. "We live here too now," she said slowly. "I think we have a right to know about the house we are living in." I took a step toward her. "No, you do not. This is my house. You are guests here." Monica stood up, gathering the papers and putting them back in the drawer with infuriating slowness. As she walked past me toward the door, she paused. "For now," she said. Then she was gone, leaving me with a racing heart and a growing sense of dread. Meanwhile, Derek finally received a solid job offer. It was a decent position with good salary and benefits at a company about 30 minutes away. I was thrilled when he told me. This was the breakthrough we had been waiting for. They could start saving money. They could find their own apartment. Life could return to normal. But Monica had other ideas. She convinced Derek to turn down the offer. The commute was too long, she argued. He deserved something better, something closer. He should wait for the right opportunity instead of settling. Derek, who seemed unable to make any decision without her approval, rejected the position. I confronted him privately that evening. "Derek, that was a good job," I said, trying to keep my frustration in check. "What are you doing?" He could not meet my eyes. "Monica is right," he said quietly. "There will be better opportunities. I just need to be patient." I realized then that Monica had complete control over my brother. He could not see it. He was so deep in her influence that he did not even recognize how she was manipulating him. And there was nothing I could do about it. 2 months in, I started counting the days. I had to believe this would end eventually. I gently brought up the timeline with Derek one evening. "Have you guys started looking at apartments?" I asked, trying to sound casual, just thinking ahead. Derek's face told me everything before he even spoke. "Actually," he said slowly, "Monica thinks we should save more before moving out. Maybe a few more months." My heart sank. A few more months could mean anything. In Monica's mind, it probably meant forever. I went to bed that night knowing I needed to set clear boundaries and establish a firm timeline for their departure. I never got the chance. Because before I could act, Monica made her move. It was exactly 3 months to the day since Derek and Monica had moved into my home. I woke up that Saturday morning feeling lighter than usual. The sun was shining. I had no work obligations. I made myself a cup of coffee and settled into my favorite chair in the kitchen, the one by the window where I could watch the birds in the backyard. For the first time in weeks, I felt a moment of genuine peace. That peace lasted about 15 minutes. Monica came downstairs looking like she was dressed for a business meeting. Her hair was perfect, her makeup flawless. She was wearing one of her nicest outfits. Derek followed behind her, and immediately I knew something was wrong. His face was tight with tension, and he could not look at me directly. "We need to have a family meeting," Monica announced. I set down my coffee cup, my calm morning evaporating instantly. "Okay," I said cautiously. "What about?" Monica sat down at the dining table and gestured for me to join her. Derek sat beside his wife, still avoiding my eyes. Monica had papers with her, I noticed. She placed them on the table in front of her like weapons waiting to be deployed. "Derek and I have been thinking about the living situation," Monica began. Her voice was smooth and controlled, the voice of someone who had rehearsed what she was going to say. For one hopeful moment, I thought they were going to tell me they had found an apartment, that they were finally moving out. "We have decided," Monica continued, "that the current arrangement is not fair." I blinked, confused. "Not fair how?" Monica's smile was thin and sharp. "You have been living here rent-free for years. Meanwhile, Derek and I have been struggling to make ends meet." I genuinely did not understand what she was saying. "I own this house," I said slowly, stating what I thought was obvious. "I do not pay rent. I paid off the mortgage." Monica nodded as if I had just proved her point. "Exactly. And since Derek is your brother, that means this is essentially family property." The words hung in the air between us. I stared at her, waiting for the punchline, waiting for her to admit this was some kind of bizarre joke, but her expression remained serious. I do not understand what you are saying, I told her. Monica leaned forward, her eyes gleaming with something that looked disturbingly like triumph. She began to lay out her reasoning as if explaining something simple to a child who was slow to understand. Since Derek and I were siblings, she explained, we shared family assets. The house that I had bought was therefore shared property, at least in principle. Derek had just as much of a claim to it as I did because we came from the same family. And as Derek's wife, Monica naturally shared in anything that belonged to her husband. Therefore, in Monica's twisted logic, Derek was part owner of my house. And if Derek owned half the house, then I was actually just living in space that partially belonged to him. I sat there in stunned silence, unable to form words. So, here is the situation, Monica continued, reaching for her papers. She pulled out what looked like printed research about rental prices in the area. We have calculated the fair market rent for a room in a house like this. She slid one of the papers toward me. It showed rental listings for comparable properties in the neighborhood. Rooms in shared houses going for anywhere from $1,500 to $2,000 per month. A room in a comparable house rents for about $2,000 a month. Monica said matter-of-factly, we think it is only fair that you start paying that amount to us. I laughed. I actually laughed out loud because surely this had to be a joke. Nobody could possibly be this delusional. Nobody could walk into someone else's home and demand rent with a straight face. But Monica was not laughing. Her expression did not change at all. I am not joking, she said flatly. I turned to Derek, desperate to see some sign that he recognized how insane this was. He was still staring at the table, his jaw clenched, offering nothing. Since you are essentially living in your brother's house, Monica went on, it is only fair that you contribute financially. $2,000 a month seems reasonable, starting next month. The laughter died in my throat, replaced by something cold and hard. Let me make sure I understand this correctly, I said, my voice barely above a whisper. You want me to pay you rent, to live in my house, the house I bought, with my money, that I saved for 12 years, that I paid off with my own income while working 2 jobs. Monica did not flinch. It is not just your house, it is Derek's inheritance too. Your parents would have wanted you to share with your brother. The mention of my parents hit me like a physical blow. For her to invoke them, to drag their memory into this grotesque power grab, was almost more than I could bear. Do not you dare bring my parents into this, I said through clenched teeth. Monica shrugged. I am just being practical. Derek is your brother, family is supposed to share, that is how it works. I turned back to Derek, who still had not said a single word. Are you hearing this? I demanded. Are you seriously going along with this? Derek finally raised his eyes to meet mine, and I almost did not recognize my own brother. There was no shame there, no apology, just resignation. Monica has a point, he said quietly. Mom and Dad always wanted us to take care of each other. I am taking care of you, I exploded, my composure finally shattering. I let you live in my house for free for 3 months. I paid for your food, your utilities, everything. What more do you want? Monica jumped in before Derek could respond. Exactly, she said, nodding as if I had just agreed with her. You have been very generous letting us stay here without paying rent, and now it is time for you to contribute as well. The audacity of that statement left me breathless, the sheer unbelievable nerve of sitting in my home and telling me I needed to contribute to my own household. I felt like I had stepped into some alternate reality where nothing made sense. I stood up so abruptly that my chair scraped loudly against the floor. This is insane. I am not paying you a single cent to live in my own home. If you do not like the arrangement, you can leave. And Monica remained seated perfectly calm. We are not going anywhere. Derek has just as much right to be here as you do. No, I said firmly. He does not. My name is on the deed. I paid for this house. Every single payment for 12 years, every repair, every tax bill, every insurance premium, me, alone, not Derek, not you. Me. Monica's smile took on a cruel edge. We will see about that. My cousin is a lawyer. He thinks we might have a case for adverse possession. Derek shifted uncomfortably. Monica, maybe we should... She cut him off without even looking at him. No, Derek, we need to stand up for ourselves. Your sister has been taking advantage of you your whole life. It is time someone stopped her. I felt the blood drain from my face. Taking advantage of him, all those years of sacrifice, all those times I put my own life on hold to help my brother, and this woman was sitting here telling him I had been using him. Monica started talking again, and this time she was not holding anything back. She painted a picture of history that I did not recognize. According to her, I had abandoned Derek after our parents died. I had hoarded family wealth while he struggled. I had only invited them to live with me so I could have free housekeepers. Every good thing I had ever done for my brother was twisted into something selfish and calculating. And Derek just sat there. He did not correct her. He did not defend me. He let her rewrite our entire lives while I stood there in shock. Monica finally stood up, straightening her papers as if this had been a perfectly normal business negotiation. "You have 1 week to decide," she announced. "Either start paying $2,000 a month or we will take legal action." She walked out of the room without a backward glance. Derek followed her like a shadow, still not meeting my eyes. I stood alone at my dining table, shaking with anger and disbelief. I looked around at the house I'd sacrificed everything for. The walls I had painted myself. The floors I had refinished one weekend when I could not afford to hire someone. The kitchen where I had taught myself to cook. Every inch of this place represented years of my life, and I had invited the enemy right through the front door. I sat back down slowly, my mind racing, and began to plan my response. I did not sleep that night. Instead, I sat at my desk and started gathering documentation. The deed to the house. My name and only my name listed as owner. The complete stack of mortgage statements showing 12 years of payments, all made from my bank account. Receipts for every major repair and renovation I had done. Property tax records. Insurance documents. Everything was in my name because I had paid for everything with my money. Then gathered a different kind of evidence. Bank transfers I had made to Derek over the years. Every time I had helped him with rent. Every time I had loaned him money for car repairs. Every time I had bailed him out of some financial jam. The total came to over $15,000, not counting the 3 months of free housing and food I had just provided. Money I had never asked to be repaid. Monday morning, I took a half day off work. I had found a real estate lawyer through a colleague, a woman named Patricia, who specialized in property disputes. I brought my stack of documents to her office and laid out the entire situation. Patricia listened carefully, taking notes and examining the paperwork. When I finished explaining Monica's demand and her threat of adverse possession, Patricia actually laughed. "Adverse possession," she said, shaking her head in disbelief. "That requires years of exclusive occupation without the owner's consent. These people have been in your home for 3 months with your explicit permission. They have absolutely no legal claim to your property, none whatsoever." The relief I felt was overwhelming. "So they cannot take my house?" "Not even close. The deed is in your name. You made every payment. There is no documentation showing Derek ever contributed anything. Their claim is not just weak, it is non-existent." I asked about my options. Patricia explained that I had every right to evict them. I could give them 30 days written notice, which was standard. With cause, which she said I clearly had given Monica's behavior, I could potentially expedite the process. She offered to write an official letter if I wanted legal backing. I left her office feeling like I could breathe again for the first time in weeks. That evening, I asked for another family meeting. Monica seemed surprised but agreed, probably expecting me to cave to her demands. We gathered at the same dining table where she had ambushed me 2 days earlier. This time, though, the dynamic was going to be very different. I laid out all my documents in a careful row. Deed, mortgage records, payment history, repair receipts. Everything organized and labeled. Monica's eyes narrowed as she took in the display. "I spoke with a lawyer today," I said calmly. "Let me explain the actual legal situation to you." I went through each document methodically. The deed proving I was the sole owner. The mortgage records showing I had made every single payment. The total amount I had paid over 12 years, more than $200,000. Then I showed the records of everything I had given Derek, over $15,000 in loans and gifts that had never been repaid. Monica tried to interrupt several times. I held up my hand each time and kept talking. "I am not finished." As when the paperwork was covered, I turned to face Derek directly. I needed him to hear this, really hear it without Monica's voice in his ear. "Do you remember when Mom and Dad died?" I asked him. "I was 22 years old. You were 18. I was grieving just like you, but I did not have time to fall apart because someone had to take care of us. I got 2 jobs, so you could finish high school. I gave up my 20s so you would have a chance." Derek's face was pale. He still could not meet my eyes, but I could see his jaw trembling. "Every single time you needed money, I was there," I continued. "Every time you were in trouble, I helped you. I never asked for any of it back because you are my brother and I love you. That is what family does. Real family." My voice started to break, but I pushed through. "And this is how you repay me, by sitting there while your wife claims my house, by letting her demand I pay rent for something I built with my own 2 hands. Derek's eyes were filling with tears now. Monica tried to regain control of the situation. You are manipulating him with guilt, she snapped. That is typical of people like you. I turned to face her directly. I am stating facts. You have not stated a single fact this entire conversation. All you have done is lie and twist reality to justify taking something that does not belong to you. Monica's face flushed red. Derek is your family. Family shares everything. Then where were you when I was working 2 jobs to pay off this mortgage? I asked. Where was your sharing then? Where were you when I was giving up vacations and nice clothes and normal life so I could build something? You want to share now that the hard work is done, but you were nowhere during the struggle. Monica had no answer for that. I reached into my folder and pulled out one final piece of paper, a formal eviction notice printed on official letterhead from my lawyer. You have 30 days to move out, I said, placing it on the table between us. If you are not gone by then, I will file for formal eviction through the courts. Monica snatched up the paper, her face contorted with rage. You cannot do this. Derek, tell her she cannot do this. For the first time in months, Derek lifted his head and really looked at his wife, and he said nothing. Fine. Monica threw the paper down. We will fight you in court. My cousin will destroy you. Your cousin can try, I said evenly. My lawyer says you will lose, but feel free to waste your money on legal fees. I have documentation for everything. What do you have? Monica stormed out of the room, slamming the bedroom door behind her. Derek and I sat alone at the table in the silence she left behind. Tears were streaming down his face now, and for the first time in months, I saw my brother. Not Monica's puppet, not the stranger he had become. My brother. Derek, I said gently, I love you. You are my family, my only family, but I cannot let anyone, not even you, take away what I spent my entire life building. He nodded slowly, wiping his eyes with the back of his hand. I know. I am so sorry, Vanessa. I do not know how things got this bad. I do not know how I let it happen. I do, I said. Monica has been manipulating you, manipulating both of us, maybe from the very beginning. Derek was quiet for a long moment. She was not always like this, he finally said. Or maybe she was, and I just did not want to see it. I wanted so badly for it to work. For something in my life to finally work. We talked for a long time after that, really talked the way we had not talked in years, about our parents, about growing up, about how we had both dealt with loss in different ways, about how Monica had slowly driven a wedge between us. Then the bedroom door burst open. Monica stood there with a suitcase half packed, her face twisted with fury. Derek, we are leaving right now. We will stay with my sister until we figure out our next move. Derek stood up slowly. He looked at Monica. Then he looked at me, then back at Monica. I am not going with you, he said. The shock on Monica's face would have been satisfying if the whole situation were not so devastating. What? She demanded. Vanessa is right, Derek said, his voice growing stronger. About everything. I have been so blind, Monica. I let you convince me that my own sister was the enemy when she has done nothing but help me my entire life. You are choosing her over your wife. Derek shook his head. I am choosing honesty over lies. I am choosing family over manipulation. I am choosing to finally see what has been right in front of me. Monica's face went through several expressions in rapid succession. Shock, fury, something that might have been fear. Then it settled into cold contempt. Fine, she spat. Stay with your precious sister. See how long that lasts. She disappeared back into the bedroom. We could hear her throwing things into her suitcase, cursing under her breath. 10 minutes later, she emerged with 2 bags and her purse. She did not say goodbye. She did not look at either of us. She just walked out the front door, slamming it hard enough to shake the walls. A moment later, we heard her car start and pull away. The house fell quiet. Derek and I looked at each other across the room that Monica had rearranged in the house she had tried to steal, surrounded by the evidence of everything she had tried to destroy. Then my brother walked over and hugged me tighter than he had since we were children. That first night after Monica left was strange and quiet. Derek and I sat up late, really talking, processing everything that had happened. He told me things about his marriage that he had never shared before. How Monica's demands had started small and grown over time. How she had systematically cut him off from friends and other family. How she had convinced him that everyone who criticized her was just jealous or out to hurt them. Looking back, he could see all the warning signs he had missed. The way she controlled their finances, the way she made all the decisions, the way she isolated him until she was the only voice in his ear. Classic manipulation tactics that he had been too deep inside to recognize. He apologized over and over that night. He apologized for believing Monica's lies about me. He apologized for not standing up for me when she attacked my garden, invaded my space, made her ridiculous demands. He apologized for years of taking my help for granted. I forgave him. Not because what happened was okay, but because he was my brother and I could see how deeply he regretted it. Forgiveness did not mean forgetting. It meant choosing to move forward without carrying the poison of resentment. The next morning, Derek did something that surprised me. He called the company that had offered him the job weeks earlier, the one Monica had convinced him to turn down. By some miracle, the position was still open. They had not found the right candidate yet. Derek asked if he could reconsider, and they said yes. He started work 2 weeks later. From that point on, Derek was like a different person. He threw himself into his new job with dedication I had never seen from him before. He woke up early. He stayed late when needed. He got positive reviews from his supervisor. For the first time in his adult life, he seemed to actually care about building something. He also started paying me back. Every paycheck he would hand me money toward the debt he had accumulated over the years. I told him it was not necessary. He insisted. He said he needed to do this for himself to prove that he could be responsible, to rebuild his own self-respect. He took over household chores without being asked. He cooked dinner several nights a week. He mowed the lawn and took out the trash and fixed the leaky faucet I had been ignoring for months. He was not doing it because I demanded it. He was doing it because he genuinely wanted to contribute. Monica tried to contact Derek multiple times in the following weeks. Her approach alternated between furious threats and tearful apologies. She would send angry texts about how he was making a huge mistake, then follow them with messages about how much she loved him and how they could work things out. Derek blocked her number eventually. He had heard enough. She showed up at the house once about a month after she left. I came home from work to find her car in my driveway and her standing on my porch pounding on the door. Derek was inside, refusing to answer. When she saw me approaching, she started screaming about how I had stolen her husband, how I'd ruined her life, how she was going to make me pay. I calmly pulled out my phone and called the police. Monica was gone before they arrived, but I filed a report anyway. She never came back after that. Derek filed for divorce shortly after. Monica did not contest it, probably because she knew she had no case and no resources for a legal battle. 6 months later, it was finalized. Derek came home that day with the signed papers and a strange expression on his face, like he was waking up from a long nightmare and finally seeing daylight. We spent a weekend replanting my garden together. We worked side by side in the dirt, putting new tomatoes and peppers where Monica had ripped out the old ones. We planted herbs and flowers and even a small rose bush because Derek thought I should have something beautiful that was not connected to bad memories. It was therapeutic work, healing in a way I had not expected. We put the furniture back where I had always liked it. We reorganized the kitchen cabinets together, laughing about how ridiculous Monica's system had been. Slowly, my house started feeling like home again. 6 months after Monica's departure, Derek had saved enough money for his own apartment. He found a nice place about 15 minutes away, small but comfortable. Moving day was bittersweet. Part of me was sad to see him go. The house had felt alive with him there in a good way this time, but I also knew he needed to stand on his own. As he carried the last box out to his car, Derek stopped and hugged me one more time. "Thank you," he said, "for not giving up on me, even when I gave you every reason to." I hugged him back. "You are my brother, always." And he visits every Sunday now for dinner. We cook together, alternating who makes what. We talk about work, about life, about nothing important. Our relationship is stronger than it has ever been, forged through fire and came out the other side intact. Alone in my house again, I appreciate it differently than I did before. I notice the quiet. I notice the peace. I notice how every object is exactly where I want it to be. I'd taken these things for granted before Monica. I will never take them for granted again. Looking back on everything that happened, I have learned lessons that I wish I had not needed to learn. Some of them were painful, all of them were necessary. I learned that your home is your sanctuary and you have every right to protect it. I learned that kindness should have limits because unlimited kindness becomes an invitation to be exploited. I learned that sharing blood does not give anyone the right to take what you have built. I learned that sometimes the person threatening your family is someone your family invited in, and I learned that standing up for yourself is not a betrayal of the people you love. It is teaching them how you deserve to be treated. I think about my parents sometimes, about what they would have wanted for me and Derek. They would have wanted us to support each other, yes. They believed in family above almost everything else. but they would never have wanted me to destroy myself for someone else's benefit. They would never have expected me to give up my home, my security, my dignity, just because someone demanded it. True family support means helping each other grow. It does not mean enabling bad behavior. It does not mean sacrificing everything you are for someone who does not appreciate the sacrifice. It means loving each other enough to tell hard truths and set necessary boundaries. My house is not just walls and a roof. It is 12 years of my life. It is every morning I woke up early for a second job. It is every vacation I did not take and every luxury I did not buy. It is my sweat and my tears and my hope made physical. No one has the right to take that from me, and no one has the right to take what you have built from you either. I do not know what the future holds. Derek is thriving in his new life. I am at peace in my home. And every morning when I walk through rooms that are fully mine again, I remember that some things are worth fighting for. Has anyone ever tried to take advantage of your kindness? How did you handle it? I would love to hear your stories in the comments below. If this story resonated with you, please hit that like button. It helps more than you know. Subscribe to this channel for more stories about standing up for yourself and protecting what matters most, and please share this with someone who might need to hear it today. Sometimes we all need a reminder that setting boundaries is not just okay, it is essential. Thank you so much for watching and for listening. I wish you a home that feels safe, family that deserves your love, and the strength to know the difference between the two.